Okay, I'm back and I'm doing a video on musician, guitarist extraordinaire Jimi Hendrix. I was checking out a interview I saw on Dick Cavett. I've seen it a couple of times, but I saw it again recently and I wanted to look into his chart and see what was going on at the time. Actually wanted to first I'm going to do an overview of his natal chart. And then I'm also going to do another video which does the transits of the time he transitioned. So, test read purposes. Each interpretation is various from different astrologers. So, as we see, he's born November 27th, 1942. He is a Sagittarius sun, a Cancer moon, and he's also a Sag rising. So, what's interesting, he's Sag sun and a Sag sign. So, his personality reflects that of a Sagittarius in both ways. And he also had a Cancer moon, which makes him very emotional or sensitive to others and around him. And that explains his low-key personality that a lot of people saw underneath. The interview he did on Dick Cavett, I saw a lot of comments where people were saying, oh, he seems very mild and low-key and mellow. And from what was told by other people that knew him very well, is that was always his personality, very low-key, mellow. But because of his rising being Sag, and definitely because the sun sign is Sag, his stage persona put on a different show, and that was the wild, fiery, different creative type of being that you've seen in the media and entertainment. But when he wanted to be home, he definitely was himself, with that Cancer moon. So let's see where that Cancer moon is in his 7th house, which represents partnerships. Also, he has Jupiter there as well. Now, people with a Sag rising, usually their 7th house, based on the Placidus house system, is always Cancer. And Cancer in the 7th house is definitely emotional. Depending on what planets you have in there, it can either bring you rewards and blessings, or it can bring you karma and lessons. And in his case, his was rewards and blessings. So he was very emotional. That's why he attracted so many different type of women, and women loved him. And he also, because he had that ability to please to them and be nurturing. And he also had Jupiter there in the 7th house. Is Jupiter, it was retrograde though. So having that Jupiter retrograde in his house, it took a little more work than Jupiter is always bringing rewards regardless, but with it being retrograde, it will take some time, or it will take a lesson for that reward. So he may have had a few women in his life that really looked out for him or took care of him, but he may not seen that at the time, and may have gravitated towards some others who didn't really have that sensibility or care about him, but only care about him because of his persona and who he was to the world. He also has Saturn in the 6th house, which explains perfectly because the Saturn is in Gemini, and that's Gemini means dual things, work, health. That Saturn, that karma, explains the essence of him working really hard, and he was very talented. He had a gift. With that Uranus as well, retrograde, and like is in part of his 5th towards the 6th house, the innovative change that he was going to produce to the world as we all see it now, basically a visionary. But the Saturn had to bring lessons first. So that hard work, that karma, he worked in many bands, different bands, from the Isley Brothers to working with Little Richard, to working with King Curtis, from working with Ike and Tina Turner Review, you name it, in between doing different gigs here and there. He didn't really have a stable environment after he left the army. He was also in the airborne. So he worked and he did various different type of odd jobs while he was perfecting his craft as a musician, and that reward came later. And unfortunately, most of it came after his death, but he was able to see some of it while he was still here on this planet. And that's where that ninth house Neptune comes in Libra. Is it retrograde? Let me check and see. No, it's direct. So Libra in the ninth house, which is travel, balancing. He was always traveling in between England, London, England, and America. And if you look at ninth house is overseas traveling. Neptune, the illusion of things being better over there. And unfortunately, he, passed over there, but we'll get to that in a moment. But that's that Neptune. His north node is in Leo. Born to be a star. He also has Pluto in Leo. He's part of that Pluto and Leo generation, where you have various talented, innovative, visionary type musicians that came out during that Pluto and Leo generation. And he's one of them. His Pluto in the 8th house. So, Pluto also deals with death, taxes, inheritance. That Pluto, that Leo means son. Leo also means father. Could also represent his father, who took over his estate after his death and was able to, and Pluto means transformation. So basically, his dad transformed his brand and created the studio, Electric Ladyland Studios, I believe, and that studio is still here to this day. It's still profiting, making money, even after his dad passed away. That inheritance, that estate is continuing producing money. So that really reflects there in this chart. And let me look at something else. He has basically hardly any planets in his first, second, third, or fourth house, which is interesting because those are close to home. And that's probably what explains how he felt about leaving home, because he left Seattle. His mom died early, and he ended up becoming more, as you can see, in the upper house, dealing with everything, his fame, his career. 10th house is in Scorpio, Mars, very intense. So that fast, once he did all that hard work in the 6th house, as you can see in that 10th house, his career, his perfecting his craft, he launched very fast. And it was like that 5 to 3 year time frame where he just stratosphere out into superstardom. However, you have the Mercury, Venus, and Sun. He had Venus too in Sagittarius, so a lot of times he would seem aloof in his communication as well, or like he was just not there because he wasn't in, because he has that 12th house as well, along with that first house, Sag. So he has that behind me and in front of me, as I call it, appearance that he's really traveling carefree and exploring things in that 12th house, which means institutions, endings, and some other things. But the Venus brought about, it's sad, she brought about different type of women, various different type of women that liked him and attracted to him. Let's see if there's anything else I need to. His IC is down here by the 4th house. No planets there. But as I said before, most of his opposition came from his 6th to his 12th house. So his reality versus his perception of things. As you can see that red line going across from the 12th to the 6th house. And at the time, he was having some issues contractually with his management, being sued. Even though it appeared that he was rich, he was actually broke, and he was constantly working and touring, and the different band changes as well. He had creative differences. So that's where I'm going to leave it at here, because the next chart of his transition is very interesting, and I'll get into that with the next video. So thank you.